When determining whether to produce something in-house or use a vendor, you may have to perform a make or buy analysis. In real-world projects, make or buy analyses can be very complex. You are comparing based on costs, but also ability to do the job, references, delivery dates, and more. This make or buy analysis example will be conducted using a straightforward math equation. If you are faced with any issue that would make a vendor's ability to perform the work in a quality, timely, and ethical manner, they would be disqualified. Likewise, if your organization does not have the ability and resources to do the work properly, the ethical thing to do would be to outsource the activity. Therefore, this make or buy analysis will assume that you and the vendor are equal in your capabilities and resources, and that you would perform the work in an ethical and responsible manner. The words make and buy can mean different things. For instance, make stands for doing it yourself or doing it in-house. Buy means going to a vendor or paying someone else to do it. The analysis to make or buy can be performed for a product or a service. Let's say that you and your project team are analyzing the procurement of a new computer system. The cost to do this in-house, or make, is $12,000 for the initial investment and then $25 per day to maintain the system. The cost to pay a vendor, or buy, is a $2,000 deposit and then $350 per day for system support. Whether it makes sense to make or buy really depends on how long we will need the computer system. If we only need it for one day, it would seem foolish to invest $12,000. But if we plan to use it for 2 years, perhaps it will end up paying for itself. This seems like good logic, but how can we prove it mathematically? The variable here is the number of days we will need the computer system. Let's use x to represent the number of days. So the cost to make the system would be 12,000 plus 25x, and the cost to buy the system would be 2,000 plus 350x. The next thing we do is place the cost to make on one side of an equation and the cost to buy on the other side of the equation with an equal sign in the center. Then solve for x. Take a moment to perform this calculation. If you'd like more time to think about your answer, just pause the video and resume when you're ready. Did you get x equals 30.76? If so, great job. If your algebra is a bit rusty, don't worry. Here are some algebra reminders. You isolate the whole numbers on one side of the formula and the x's on the other side. And any actions you take to add to or subtract from one side of the equation, you have to also take on the other side of the equation. So we arrive at this number of x equals 30.76 before rounding. Calculating the break-even point can save you a lot of time. The other option would be plugging in numbers for x and calculating and comparing the costs. This could require multiple attempts. For instance, on day 10, it costs $12,250 to make and $5,500 to buy. On day 40, it costs $3,000 to make and $16,000 to buy. We know the break-even point must be somewhere between day 10 and day 40, but we don't have the time to keep plugging in numbers for x. That is why we perform the break-even equation. The break-even point of 30.7, or roughly day 31, is the point when the costs are virtually the same to make or buy the computer equipment. From day 1 to day 30, it is better to buy. This is because our initial investment of $12,000 takes until day 31 to become worthwhile. From day 32 on, it is better to make the equipment in-house because the $350 per day in system support cost from the vendor begin to add up and eventually exceed the cost to make. The logic used in the make or buy analysis can be applied to any similar decision. For instance, you may use this analysis when deciding whether it makes sense to buy or lease equipment. The analytical process is the same. The costs can be placed on either side of an equation and calculated to find a break-even point. In summary, the make or buy analysis is a technique that you can use to determine the most cost effective decision depending on how long you will utilize a product or service.